Hi everyone. Welcome to Conversations with Nia. I'm your host, Nia Black, and I'm super excited to be back again by popular demand. We're going to be continuing on the conversation we had last week. African Americans marrying Africans, would you do it? Africans marrying African Americans, would you do it? I'm super honored. I have a very lit panel today. They are ready to break it down and go in. I mean, my panel from last week was very lit, but this panel is like, hey, we're going to make sure no stones are unturned. And some of you guys reached out to me saying, hey, Nia, we wanted the panel from last week to talk more about their experiences, their relationship. Do they like Africans? Do they not like Africans? Do they like African Americans? Do they not? So today we're gonna dive more into their perspectives and their experiences. So I'm so excited to introduce my panel at this time. You guys know I love having a community conversation, right? So please chime in. Please share the video if you're loving this conversation so that we can have, again, a community conversation. So to introduce my panel, first up, we have Alexis Terry, the beautiful Alexis. And we have Brittany Abiolu. Hi, Brittany.
Hi.
We have Akindele Akinyemi. Hi, I was waiting for a response there. We have Victor Adeyemo.
Yeah, hello, guys.
We have Kese Segopolo.
Hello.
And LaVincent Scott. Hi, LaVincent. So some of you recognize Kese from last week, right? So she's back again, okay? I said, Kese, you got to come back again. We want to hear more of your direct thoughts on this issue. So I'm going to start with the first question for my panel. Are you an African or are you an African American? And if you are, would you date the other community? So if you're an African, would you date an African American? If you're an African American, would you date an African? Just a yes or no answer. And please mute your phones, your microphones, please. If you're on here, all my panel, please make sure your microphones are muted. Perfect. All right. So who wants to go first? Alexis, you want to take it away?
Sure. I am an African American, and yes, I would date an African.
Awesome. Brittany, we can go in that order. Brittany, you're muted. We can't hear you.
Sorry. I'm an African American, and yes, I would date an African.
Awesome. Kese?
Hi, I'm a South African, and I would not date an African American.
Okay. LaVincent.
I'm sorry, yeah. I'm a Nigerian. I'll definitely date an African American.
Okay, so that's you, Victor. All right, so let's go to Akindele next. Akindele.
I consider myself a Nigerian American, and I would date, boy, this is hard. I'd date an African American, but it'd be some deep stipulations and some background checks and some prayer. And Jesus have to intervene for me to date an African American woman. Thank you.
You know what? We're gonna come back to you, Akindele, because okay. LaVincent, I want to hear from you. You're mute, LaVincent. Oh, we still can hear you. You want to try and unmute it?
Can you hear me?
You're perfect. Yes, we can hear you. Yes.
I say Kindle came for all the smoke tonight, I see.
He did. I told you he's not gonna hold back. He's not.
I see that.
Go ahead.
I see that. Actually, I'm an African American man, and I'm not only currently dating an African woman, but yeah, absolutely, I would date an African woman. But I've done it in my past, and I am currently dating a woman from Ghana.
Awesome. That's beautiful. So you're currently dating someone from Ghana. So I want to go first with Alexis again. Alexis, so why would you date an African? What was your experience like overall?
So I have dated African men from all countries in Africa. My experience has differed. I've dated African men who I just consider very culturally African, and I've dated African men who may have grown up in America all of their lives, so they are more culturally American. Okay. And I think the ones who were raised in America, we get along much better, easier. We have more in common. But I think African men are fine. It just depends on the person. But my experience has been pretty good.
Okay, good. And then let's see, LaVincent, what's your experience like dating Africans right now?
A learning experience, I think. You know, you hear me talk a lot about the cultural exchange between the two, and I think it's a thing where you have to be open-minded to another side of the equation. I think we tend to sometimes look at it from either American or an African equation, but you'll probably hear me talk a lot about the cultural exchange and how there can be a lot of benefit. I can learn more about my heritage, I feel, sometimes through an African woman than I can with an American woman, and I can learn, and she can learn a little bit more about my side of the equation. So I think it's the cultural exchange. We tend to look at it as a divide, but sometimes you can really kind of find more yourself sometimes in having that cultural exchange.
Okay, no, that's actually very good. So Victor, I want to hear from you, since you will date an African American, you're an African. What has your experience been like dating an African American?
Yeah, like I said, I'll date an African American. It all depends on what are their own perspective about the people you want to date. So, for example, in the past, I had a girlfriend from America. She's black, and she was all for the African culture. She had lived in Senegal for about 2 years.
Okay.
She had traveled to over 16 countries in Africa, and she said she's willing to live in Africa. She's willing to raise her kids in Africa. She's majorly Africa oriented, and just like I can't say you have to do some background checks, but with her, she's clean. I mean, she does not have any criminal background. She does not do anything that has to do with criminal or whatever. So she's totally fine, and she's very cultured too. Well, because probably she had lived in Africa for a long time.
Okay.
So like I said, I'll definitely date someone from America who is willing to learn, and who is willing to also adapt to the African culture. Like, we both need to adapt to each other's culture, but who is really open-minded to it. Okay.
Okay. You know, I think what you said was really funny. You said you have to do your own checks. That was quite funny, right? Do the background check. I thought that was really interesting.
I was, yeah.
That was very interesting. That was very, it almost
I was just where it was like Akin said.
Oh, Akinele said, you know, Alexis is already sipping her tea. She's like, okay. Akinele, so why would you not marry or date an African American? We want to hear it.
Well, here's the situation. Here's the truth. You know, my mother's African American. She married my dad. My son's mom's African American. So it's not so much about the African American person itself. My concern in this stage of my life, gone through all what I've gone through, my concern right now with our culture here in the U.S. is sometimes our culture can become very toxic. And what I mean by that is the game plan for men and women, and it creates an atmosphere of confusion. And so you have someone like myself who do not play games, who work 2-3 jobs, who is pretty much educated, who is not on drugs. I don't have kids all over the place. I just don't get down like that. I'm just about women empowerment. And the issue is with some African American women is that they come to the table with all this baggage. It's not just baggage, any kind of baggage. It's baggage, like baggage. That's the best way to put it. And some women I've dated in the past, they come with an agenda. I don't come to the table with no agenda. I come with a plan. And the plan is for both of us to be empowered, to move forward and build legacies, period. That's just how I am. Some come with an agenda. Some will say, they love my head, they love what's up here, but they don't love my heart. And they try to exploit my brain, and they leave the heart part out. That's when they start rubbing your head. You're a friend, put you in the friend zone. Hell, to this day, I don't even know what the hell a friend zone is. I think it's high school. And so with the culture, the current culture in our community right now, I kind of just step back and say, I'm good with that. That's just been my personal experience. That's not to say all African American women are like that, because they're not.
Okay.
But it takes a hell of a lot for an African American woman to say and prove that, hey, I want to really be your partner, and that's not really the case with me. Sorry.
Okay, Alexis, what's your response to that? Because he's targeting African American women directly. So what's your response?
Sounds like all women to me. I don't think African American women are the only women who may come to relationships with baggage. It's just a part of life. But I guess maybe you've had bad experiences with African American women, but we are not all the same. Myself personally, I am not dating because I have taken this time to really work on myself. And I know before I get in something really serious or I find a life partner, I don't want to bring anything to that relationship but my best self, and be willing to meet someone that I can work with and we can grow together. So just me personally, I would hope all women go through things, but we get to a certain age where we realize, you know what? I don't need to be worrying about a man right now. I need to be worrying about myself and getting myself together before I enter into anything. But unfortunately, some women do feel that they need a man to complete them. So they will continue to enter into relationships when they are not their best selves and they have not released that baggage. So, I understand where he's coming from, but I think that can be all women, not just African American women.
Okay. Brittany, remind me, did you say you will marry an African American, or you will not? Refresh me.
I will.
You will.
I will.
Okay, so yours is also good.
Yeah.
So what has your experience been like? Have you dated African American or Africans? What has your experience been like?
Yes,
Okay.
I have dated Nigerian men. My mom's a Black American, my dad's Nigerian, and I grew up around a lot of couples like that, where it's an American woman and a Nigerian man. So since I grew up around it, it's something that I'm used to. So I felt like, okay, maybe it may be better for me to date Nigerian men. And I would say I enjoy it. I feel like they're very loving, caring. My experience with them is completely different from my experience with American men. Like, I will not date a Black American man anymore. Like, I'm saying that right now. I don't know if that'll change in the future.
Well,
but
tell me
what
happened, Brittany. What was your experience? Is it the way they're not passionate enough, or they're very arrogant or domineering?
I feel like the Black American men that I have met, they are not about, okay, so how I was raised, all the Nigerian men, they take care of their wives and their family. I feel like with the Black American men, it's more of you got to help me pay the bills. I just feel like they are not about taking care of you, in my experience, in the way that a Nigerian man is about. And so that's like the number one thing for me. And then this other thing is just, like I said, it's just what I grew up around. So I'm more comfortable with that. Okay. I feel like I'm better suited for that. So It's just that simple.
You know what, Lavinta, I want to hear your response to Brittany. So she's saying she is not, for now, she said for now, she is not going to date an African-American man. I feel like you were very nice. You're like, I'll date an African girl. I am dating an African person. But people are saying, no, you're not going to date African-American people. What are you feeling? What are your thoughts?
I can feel both sides, honestly.
Okay.
Honestly, a lot of my stuff might seem a little left, but one of the people that I listen to is a gentleman by the name of Sadhguru. He's a kind of a meditation and growth expert, and he talks a little bit about this journey that we all are going on to find whatever level of happiness it is. And sometimes we think that happiness, the basis of that happiness, is always based in someone else's heart or in someone else's mind. But the reality is that happy that you're looking for, as the young lady alluded to up top, is really more or less built within your personal growth and your self growth. And I always call it parallel courses. If you're doing the right in your own measures and you're trying to take care of your family and you know that you're giving your best on a daily basis to help your personal growth, at some point you're going to find that someone, whether they're African or whether they're American, may come in line with those values. One of the reasons that I decided to date or that I love dating the African woman. Do you mind, guys? All right. Really, I'll just tell you two light stories. I hope if time permits.
Please, I want to hear. That's what I'm here. I want to hear your story.
Yeah, there are really two things that kind of stick out to me about the cultural exchange. You know, like I said, I talked a little bit about this, but LaVincent
was going in and he just disappeared. What happened? See, connection, you guys can never, it's never certain what happens with virtual live interviews. It's never certain. But once he comes back again, and I want him to finish up his point, because that was really, it was getting good. It was getting really good. Cassie, I'm going to come to you. I wanted to come to you last because you've been on the panel before. Cassie, you did tell us that you will not date or marry an African-American person. Hey, LaVincent, I'm going to come back to you in your story. Okay, let me just go to Cassie and I'll come back to you.
Okay.
So, Cassie, you stood out last week. You made some points, but I feel like we didn't hear your personal experience. So what exactly just changed, aside from what you said last week, African Americans being, and I want to use this word again, entitled, but that's not what you said. You did not say entitled. But it's so hard for them to step out of their comfort zone to learn about other people, right? I think that's better. What else? What other experience have you had that has kind of pushed you away from dating from that community?
I'm sorry, Mia. Today I've got a bit of a cough.
It's okay.
So, today, we're going to sit down and talk about reasons why I would personally not date African Americans, right? I want to shed a light on internalized racism and the role that it plays in the social distance between us between African Americans and Africans per se. And because of, I guess, the remnants of slavery, I feel like Africans as a group, right, have the kind of self-loathe kind of mentality that comes as a remnant of slavery. And in Americans per se, it makes them identify with the self, not self attitude, where when in a group of Black people, Americans will point out they are Black, but they are not just any Black. They are Black American. And when you look at the dynamics between couples, usually who are African American and American, most of one of the things that happens the most is that the couple migrates to America. And then we have comments that we received last week that African men come to America, but leave 20, 30 wives behind, and the American wives don't know about it. And the only reason why these women that I find they don't know that this person has a polygamous past is because they're not even willing to set foot in Africa and experience that. So for the fact that for me, I feel like I cannot relate. Americans have carried themselves as being the superior Black, and I cannot be in a relationship where I feel like if I'm in it, my home will cease being my home, and I would have to identify with this other culture, which for us as Africans, I guess it's been so easy in the fact that we identify and we are so active within your movements, the Black Lives Matter movement. I mean, when that was happening, we had Black men being shot by the army during lockdown, but we had little to no American support on those issues. So I just feel because of their lack of interest in us and where we come from makes them undateable.
Wow. Okay, so LaVincent, I'm going to have you finish up on your story, and I want to come back to what Kessa is saying and see if anyone on the panel has a rebuttal or follow-up or add-on. So you were telling us a story, your experiences, LaVincent?
Absolutely. You know, a lot of the story really relates to a lot of the issues that we're talking about here. And, you know, it was unique when you first invited me to the panel, Nia, because I've had the experiences from both sides. I grew up in the Washington, D.C. area. I'm originally from Falls Church, Virginia. I don't know if you know much about Washington, D.C., but that's probably one exit before you actually reach into Washington, D.C. That's on the Virginia side. So the very next exit would be Pentagon City. And from there, you're into Washington, D.C. I mean, I was so entrenched in the culture there that I literally, on the day of 9/11, I was there watching. I was actually on the Potomac River going to George Washington's home when I saw smoke coming from the Pentagon. So I was one of the first people to actually see what was going on. And in the DC culture, when you're living in this area, you have a large, at the time I didn't understand what was going on, but you have a large refugee culture. We have people from Iraq, we probably have the largest African culture outside of Africa anywhere in the world, probably besides the UK. In the Washington, D.C. area. So you have all different realms of the African diaspora. And I went to school at a school called Jeb Stuart High School. Funnily enough, this was one of the most culturally diverse schools in America, but it was named after Confederate general, right? But it's now actually called Justice High School, believe it or not. So, and going to Justice High School, or at Stewart at the time, I was exposed to a variation of cultures. I mean, you name it. We had over probably 120 different cultures from around the world. We were actually named probably the most diverse high school in America. So this was my first experience with the African woman. And there was a girl, and she was not my girlfriend at the time, but it's very interesting. If you Google this name a little bit later, I won't give away the surprise, but you can find out what happened to this girl. But there was a girl by the name of Lola Ogunegi, right? And Lola, in the African culture, I'm learning that when they're growing up, it ain't a lot of, hey, here's my body. Kind of like the what you might get on the American side is the mothers are very strict. They brought their children here for a specific goal to accomplish those goals. And there is a very strict. So Lola wasn't all made up but the interesting part about Lola was that I discovered about her, it was her mind. She could seduce you almost with the power of her mind. And I was a young guy at the time, and she had that African flow. Now she had that round booty, and I'm kind of, I think one day I messed around and caught me a little squeeze or what, and I say, man, even the booty different. The booty was like a African soft or something. So
Kessa is like, I don't know what's going on.
But she knew she was smarter than everyone else. Okay, so out of this school, we had kids that parents were lawyers. We had kids that parents were. We had the Indian kids that were the mathematic geniuses. Who do you think was valedictorian of that school? Who was the smartest kid out of all of those kids? And I also went to school with a gentleman by the name of Ali Kagbo, who was a good friend of mine, and he very talented lawyer now. Same thing. His mother brought him here from Nigeria, and that was the plan, right? And one of the things that I was able to learn from my experience with Lola, and a little bit later on down the line, I dated a young lady by the name of Samira Nagasi. And Samira, when I first met her, this was actually my first African girlfriend. I was enamored by her. I had never met a girl with the texture of their hair or the style of it, just the whole uniqueness of the African experience. So when I first met her, she was actually kind of I'd say on the run a little bit. I noticed I was at a friend's party. We hung out. And me and this girl, I told my parents, my aunt, I said, hey, I'm going to be spending a weekend with friends. And I spent the whole weekend with this girl. And I was wondering why she wasn't going home. Right? Why wasn't she going home? Why was she kind of hanging out with us? And, we became very close. And what ended up happening, what I ended up learning years later after we were dating, she left out of the blue. She was gone. She just disappeared. Well, what happened to my girlfriend? Well, come to find out that her father found out she was dating American guys. And he took her back to Africa, and he told her that they were going to visit the family. But because she had broken the norms of African society, he left her right there in Ethiopia.
Oh, wow.
And he didn't come back to get her until he found out that she had almost died of malaria. And she found me and told me this story. So what I found out throughout the course of these two exchanges was one, when dealing with a woman like Lola, I was able to find out the power of the African woman. If you've never experienced it as a Black man, or maybe as like the young lady at the top was saying, if you've ever experienced the power of maybe a African man as an American woman, then there's a little bit of yourself there that's missing that you should probably explore and discover. That's one of the things I learned about Lola.
You know what? I love what you're saying. It's a compliment to me as an African woman. I'm not gonna lie, it's good. But I'm a little confused because I feel like this panel is one-sided. Everyone is just for the African people, right? And it's like we're now against African Americans. So what's going on? Levin said, Alexis, what are you feeling? Cassie just said she's not going to date an African-American person because of ABC, but it seems like you guys are like, no, we're going to date you. So are there like any hidden perceptions or unspoken truth that you guys are not bringing to the table? Have you dated African people? You're like, you know what, this person is just so domineering. I'm done with it. I can't stand your attitude. You're entitled. You feel like you're educated. Talk to me. Because I know Blacks are beautiful all across the diaspora, right? You can't deny that. But what are you guys thinking? What's your community thinking?
Well, I think, honestly, a lot, what I learned on the Samira Nagasi side of the thing was that there's a lot of Africans, that feel that there is a one-sided exchange. It's very much like the lady up top was talking about, where she was saying that when, as Americans, right, we tend to get involved with the African and say that, and like she's saying that, well, since we're the Americans, we have a superior mind culture, and that there's no exchange from what the African can bring to us. And so when we come into it with that mindset, like I said, that's where you're taking the L, in my opinion, because one of the things that I find beautiful about being involved with my current relationship is that I get the cultural exchanging of learning more about myself as a Black man, because my family originated from some part of that coast. So, and what I learned is that there's a closer family dynamic and connection there. And if you fail to try to understand that.
No, I hear you. I definitely echo what you're saying. Alexis, I want to hear from you, especially in response to what Kessa just said. Have you been in relationship with African men where they're just extremely domineering, just strong overall, not submissive in some sense, not present in the relationship, a little arrogant? Tell me, what are you thinking? Because Kessa is just being honest. Kimberly is honest, but you're getting that from
I actually never really had just a horrible experience dating African men. However, there was one guy I was dating in Houston, and I would say, when you hear sometimes when people say good luck with a Nigerian if he only has one woman, he probably has 2 or 3 girlfriends on the side. That was him. Like, that was him. And I think he had money, and he told me he would take care of his child's mother and take care of this person. And at first it was cool, but I think when he wanted to get a little bit more serious, I didn't go to that next level, because I was like, he out here with all kinds of girls, and I'm not going to take someone serious that has that. So I do remember we were getting in a conversation, and he was like, I think we should move to the next level. And I was like, I don't know if that's what an African girl would accept, but for me, that's just not the norm for me. I'm not going to accept that. And so I don't know if it's true, but that's something that, I've often heard. So that was the only, I would say, bad situation. We ended up still being friends, but I think that was just it. I've learned a lot from African men. One thing I do like, the guys that I have talked to, I don't stray away from this topic. I think it would be pointless for me as an African American dating an African to know that we have different cultures and we have differences and things that we may have grown up thinking about each other or hearing about each other, and it just may not be true. So I've always used these relationships as opportunities to talk about this. And I think the one thing that I always take away from these conversations, even from looking at your panel last time to today, to the numerous YouTube videos I've watched about the differences between Black Americans and Africans, is it just seems like we kind of take a back seat. I'm all for listening. I understand. I have asked, even over here with my African friends, I will bring up this topic all the time, and I'm always receptive to listening to the problems or how an African may feel about us or how they may feel we act superior. But I also feel that, okay, I've heard your story. I've heard maybe the whole African booty scratcher thing you experienced at school. But at some point, we have to move past that. If at our big ages, we have not been able to say, okay, there was children, and get to have conversations with each other, we're never going to get to a point of really wanting to have unity and really understanding our differences for the better. Sometimes I just feel like we can talk about it, but we're really not getting to the root of the problem from both sides and understanding from both sides so we can move forward.
So, Alexis, how would you propose we get to the root of the problem? And before you respond to that, I want to say, those watching, I just got a comment here from Cherry Abiola. She said, please, can you keep the speakers on the question and speakers? So if you're watching and you're loving this conversation, can you unmute your microphone, everyone on the panel? Thank you. If you're watching this and you love this conversation, but you feel like, we're not going the direction you want, please ask your questions. I want to hear from you guys. That's why you guys are my co-hosts, for lack of better words, like Wendy Williams would say. So if you know, like, hey, we're not hitting the point, I want to go deeper, ask the question, and I'll ask the panel as well. So Charity, thanks for this add-on, but please, ask your question. To you, Alexis, like I was asking you, please remind me again what my question was. I lost my train of thoughts there. Remind me what my question was to you. Do you remember? You
No.
It's okay. Today's a crazy day, but that's okay. Kessa, you have an add-on?
Yes, I have an add-on. And it's basically on what Alexis had said, speaking about polygamy and stuff. And when I believe like there's an ongoing conversation about African men and polygamy. And I feel like men cheat from all races, right? But now as an African community, we need to talk about polygamy and where it stems from. When America, like Black people were taken to America, Africa was left with an imbalance of men and women because it was mainly men who were taken on slave ships. So it left that kind of imbalance in Africa that caused African men per se to end up taking a lot of wives. So I don't like it when we speak about it and share about it as if it's in a bad light. I feel like we need to understand where it stems from and its role within our community.
Kimberly, do you have any add-on to what Kessia and Alexis just said? I want to hear it. Go
let me just say this, and my brother here was spot on about the culture in DC. I was just having a conversation with a friend of mine in Bowie, Maryland about dating. And I explained to her this. I said the culture in the DMV is different from the culture here in Metro Detroit. You can almost find it's diverse. You're right, it's diverse in terms of the pool that you can choose from in the DMV. Here in Metro Detroit, good luck. Godspeed. If you have Jesus, good. Seriously. Because the pool here is so small in terms of people, men and women. It's very, very small because I call it a plant mentality. People think I be stereotyping all this. It's not a stereotype. It's a plant mentality. If I was a guy who worked at the plant, drink 40 ounces, get drunk, smoke weed, wear weed like Tom Ford. You know how these guys walk around, they smell like weed like they're wearing Tom Ford and all kinds of nonsense. I probably can get somebody quick at that level. But when you are an intellect, when you are driven, when you are educated, when you have ambition, that pool shrinks fast, quick, fast, in a hurry. And I tell people to go global, and I get African American women, they try to beat me up emotionally and psychologically behind that. They say, well, what's wrong with us here? I keep telling you what's wrong with you all here. The problem is the culture is not diverse. It can be very toxic. And so we have to change our
dang, what's going on? When y'all going in, the internet just cuts off.
What relationships should be. Relationships should always be it should be about did
we lose you? I think we lost
the lack of communication in these relationships is what's killing us. We have to do a lot better with the way we treat each other. But in terms of, and some Africans, and don't get it twisted, African men sometimes, I have no idea why we kill our wives, because the wives have come here, went to school, make more money than you. You're going to kill the wife. I don't understand that at all. I don't understand how you have all these women back home and you marry this person. I don't get all these. It's a lot of game playing, and that's something I don't get down with. Period. Either we're going to do this or we're not going to do this. Either we're going to communicate. We're going to communicate to agitate in a good sense, to build legacies. If we decide to have children, hell, if you have children, you got to communicate. That's just common sense. But the game plan that I see in African Americans and Africans in marriages, in relationships, in dating, that stuff, I don't know. I can't get down with that. I wasn't raised like that. I was raised to respect women. I was raised to respect a woman's opinion, and I was raised to empower women, and that's what I do. But because of that, a lot of folks try to take, this is me personally, a lot of people try to take my kindness for weakness. And I just, I'm at a point now where either you're with me or you're against
Brittany,
me.
I feel like you have something to say regards to what Akindele said. I saw you nodding your head in agreement. So share your thoughts with us. What are you thinking?
I mean, I totally agree with him. Maybe because we both live in Metro Detroit, but there are no options here. Especially if you're highly intellectual and educated. Like he said, the pool does shrink, so it's best to go global and open up your options.
Okay.
I agree.
So we have some comments here. One from Uche. Uche said, "I agree with Akindele. I don't understand polygamy too. They might be coming from somewhere like Kazakhstan, but they need to make a U-turn and get it done right." Kese, what was that? I saw you, Kese. What was that?
I believe it's not for any American to tell us what to do or to get what right. It's not their place. It's really not their place. I feel like that comment is done recklessly because that's a very important part of our culture. So you don't get to tell us what to do within our culture and how to do it and do it right when you yourself don't have a culture that you identify with. That's a problem. I don't feel like a comment like that should be made. You could not understand it, and it's cool, and you can make an effort to understand it. But from that perspective, from an American perspective, I don't think it's fair for them to tell us what to do.
Oh,
especially if it has such a rooted history within our communities. I mean, in South Africa, like the history is like endless. So the tone that they should do it right. I'm sorry, Uche Joanna Williams. I just don't agree with how you said what you said.
Okay, Uche is actually Nigerian. Okay, she's like, I'm talking to my people.
She's Nigerian. I think on this platform particularly, it's very even reckless to do it in such a platform. Our culture is not some things that we just change like that. It's Let
me go to Victor. Victor, so what are you thinking? There's been opinions out there. What are your thoughts?
Yes, about polygamy in Africa, or let me basically say in Nigeria. I think there are exceptional to those cases, long ago, when people die, like for example, somebody husband died, she's going to be married off to somebody else. If you're capable, if you're rich enough, you can have more than one wife. There are so many exceptions to it. There are so many levels to that. Right now, people, in the past, people want to give birth to lots of children so that they can work on farmlands, so that they can cultivate lands, they can do all kinds of things to gain wealth. But these days, people don't find the need to do that. Most people these days just give birth to one or two kids. But going back to polygamy, it's not really common these days back home in Nigeria to have somebody with multiple wives. However, it could also be cultural because, like I said, depending on your status in Africa, if you're rich and you're capable of taking care of one woman, you can always have more than one. And religiously, for Muslims, you can have as much as 4. So one needs to consider all these on different levels. So if you're an American and you want to marry a Muslim African, you shouldn't consider yourself the only wife, because definitely the religion permits them to have more than one wife. And going back to what Akin said, I think the American system has actually destroyed the family to the extent that people don't really get the core value of what family should be. In Africa, we men always see ourselves as providers, and we might not actually be so affectionate. We might not show love. We might not, but we have it in mind to take care of the family, provide for the family. We don't want to see our kids or our wife looking bad. We want to take care of them. So we are always trying to do our best to take care of all
Victor.
our women. Yeah.
Victor, I hear you. I want to read some comments because it's getting heated in the comments. Kese, you know what? No, I'm not going to even blame Kese. I can see what she did when you talked about polygamy. And then Kese responded, and now people are going back and forth in the comments. How did we go from would you date this community to polygamy and now educating the audience on polygamy? I'm not sure what's happening here. Well, let me read the comments, okay? Because Uche is coming in. She said first, I'm Nigerian. I'm speaking to my people. I'm entitled to my opinion, and I have a right to speak to my people. My father-in-law is polygamous, and I totally understand what I'm saying. And then Laneka is responding saying, everyone has their opinion. Is that what it is? Is that what it is? Everyone has their own option, their opinion. Each person has a voice to speak. Which is going in. Do you understand the emotional effect of polygamy on people involved? My father-in-law on his deathbed begged his boys to marry only one wife. If a polygamous man can say that, then it means a lot. Then Darwin says, African Americans do have a culture. We identify with what is called America. Okay. Oh my gosh, those comments today, you guys. I was not ready for this. This comment. Okay. There's one more. Because I'm losing it here. I'm losing all control. Y'all just taking the show however you want. Olisebuka said, personally, I would say that if polygamy is allowed for men, it should be allowed for women. But polygamy isn't the issue here, trust me. And you know what? I have to agree with Olise here. Polygamy is not the issue, and that's not even the topic of discussion. We're asking, would you date this person or that person? Would you date this community or not? Brittany, I want to call you. What do you think? Help me out here. What's going on? Can you bring us back to the original topic?
I mean, I'm not a fan of polygamy.
Okay.
I'm just not a fan of it. I don't know if that's the American side of me. I know that it's popular within Africa. I'm not judging. If that's your culture, that's your culture. It's not for me. I'm not interested. And that's how I feel about it.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm African, and personally, to be honest, I don't agree with it. Me personally, this is my opinion. I agree with the emotional side effects. I think it's just a lot to handle for me personally. I'm not willing to go into a relationship that already has, a man that's already married or has other women. I'm not willing to do that. But you know what? Yolanda has a comment. I want to read Yolanda's comment. She said, see, that's the problem with me right there. I have a problem. You feel you don't think we have a culture and will not learn anything about us. That's a problem to me. And I hear about this all the time. I hear African Americans are altogether wrong. But then do you as an African get to tell us how to do this? I went to Nigeria and I have seen a woman, where the man was not there, and those children aren't taken care of. So I am not saying all, but some do not take care of their children. I have to ask, she's typing more. This is really good. This is really, really good. Kese, what's your response to it?
I want to speak. There's a comment that was made by somebody down there that said Americans do have a culture and the culture is us. And that's what I meant, that is the problem. It creates a superiority and makes other Black people be unable to relate to you. And that's where I feel personally is where African Americans and white America links up. I guess their insistence on dominancy over people who are not them. And the usness of it is what makes me personally not want to date them. It makes them most of the time unopen to learning about other people.
Alexis, how do you feel when people say African Americans don't have a culture? Right, let's go, because I feel like this is all connected to this topic. Would you date this person? And people are saying, no, I wouldn't, because of African Americans don't have a culture. So how do you feel? What's the response? What's the response to that?
So again, I feel like that comment goes hand in what I was saying. We take from Africans because we can see your culture, we can see your fabric, we can hear your language, we can see your food. It's different from ours and it's unique. It's like cultures around the world. I'm an avid traveler. I love experiencing different cultures. But just because we don't have fabric or we don't have a ritual dance or whatever, that does not mean we don't have a culture. In America, we are the culture. I grew up in Europe. I live in Vietnam. I've traveled all over Asia. I see American culture everywhere I go. Everywhere I go is American culture. Here you have Vietnamese guys rapping and they call it Viet Trap. Americans invented trap music. It's part of the culture. So because ours is different from yours, it does not mean we don't have a culture. It is different. And the problem is, I feel sometimes when I hear people say we feel like we're superior, no, I feel that is deep-seated how you feel or how you've always felt about Americans. That's not us. We don't walk around acting more superior than anyone. We just are who we are. Some people feel we might be the lucky ones because we are in America or we grew up there, but that does not mean that we feel we're more superior than anybody. We just are who we are. I see me everywhere I go. I was in Bangkok and I saw the rappers turn the Run DMC shirt into 3 Thai men, and I just laughed like they done took the whole Run DMC thing. But I see my culture everywhere, and we absolutely have a culture, and I love my culture, and I appreciate my culture just like I appreciate Africans for their beautiful culture as well.
Very well said. You know what? We're going to take a break and listen to our sponsor, let everybody cool off. Let's get ourselves together back again. Let's cool off. Let's drink some water. We'll hear from our sponsor and we'll be right back.
Our vision at From Your Life is to be the Our vision at From Your Life is to be the leading provider of care management and medication risk management solutions within the industry. We believe that the next revolution in healthcare will be the engaged and empowered patient.
PharmD Live is at the intersection of technology and healthcare. We're a telehealth company that never loses sight of our focus, the patients we serve.
Our mission is to provide excellent healthcare for our patients and disrupt the delivery of healthcare.
PharmD Live is prepared to deliver on the promise of telehealth with applications that are ready now, not years from now. Our portfolio of pharmacist-led care solutions utilizes innovative software and robust analytics to deliver Medicare-compliant care services that reduce costs and improve health outcomes.
Each year, over 100,000 of America's elderly, suffering from one or more chronic conditions, will die from adverse drug reactions or from mismanaged medications. We're on a mission to resolve this health crisis, one patient at a time, through our revolutionary telehealth technology. Invest with us, and let's save American lives.
All right, we are back again. I hope everyone got a chance to cool off. Where's our panels? Connection again? There they are. Y'all just keep disappearing with this connectivity issue. Well, welcome back, everyone who's just joining. We are talking about African Americans marrying Africans and Africans marrying African Americans. This is part 2. Thank you guys for just chiming in. I hope everyone has had a chance to cool off. The conversation got a little heated. But I do want to say this, right? As the moderator, the host, I do want to say this. I realized in just having these 2 parts that our relationship and the breach is so intertwined. Everybody mute their microphones, please. Make sure it's muted. Just so we don't have the echo again. Thank you. So what I've realized about the relationship between African Americans and Africans is it's so layered. The problem is so layered that if I decide to talk about just relationship, we're going to bleed into talking about other things because not everything is fully fixed or well put together. Does that make sense? We're not completely united. So we can start talking about, would you date an African American? And then that like literally opens up this kind of worms of other issues that are literally hidden. So for those of you that want me to stick to the topic, it's going to be so hard because you've heard them say, yes, I will date, and yes, I will not date. So now the question is, why won't you date? Why would you date? Right? And so now they're bringing up all this reason and we're taking it from there. So please stay with us, okay? We are sticking to the topic, but we're just going just so that we can heal our community and become united again. So you know what? I wanna touch back on what Kessa said. Kessa made a comment as well last week about this whole African-American Africans, the culture, this community not understanding us. And I'm gonna play that clip. And once we play that, I want us to start talking about that issue from there, right? Let's shift gears a little bit and start talking about that. So let me play this video that Kessa made from last week. And
as migrating to America makes you guys feel like we are going to take away something. You know, I mean, date French women, Americans bring Russian models all the time. I don't see this happening, but why do we have so much self-hate that when it's us, we see each other as like opportunists? You know, so it comes back to like people coming into Black people coming to America, and then people assuming that they're there to take jobs. Like America has everybody from everywhere. Why is it always a big deal when it's Africans? And the whole thing of you guys calling us Africans sometimes even rubs me the wrong way.
All right, so that was Kessa's comment from last week, right? She said, I don't like that you guys just call us Africans in general. Like she mentioned that earlier. And she said, when we come here, it feels like you guys think we're taking away your opportunities. Alexis, so what response do you have to Kessa in that comment she made in the video from last week?
I can see where she's coming from because now I actually have seen a few people say that. In a sense of, I would say, just give an example. I'm in a group on Facebook called Mixtries, and I think the creator of that group is Nigerian, or she's an African, but she grew up in America. And she made the point of just scholarships in general. So if there's a minority scholarship that's available, they are more than likely to give that scholarship to a Black immigrant or immigrant student because their story is more compelling, or they get certain points for that. So I've seen that talked about, and I guess that is one issue, but in the same way, it means, you know, we just have to step our game up. I will never feel like anyone is taking anything from me personally, because I'm going to always get what's for me. But I do understand why some people would feel that way.
Okay. Akinele, what's your response? Do you agree with Kessa or do you agree with Alexis? What are your thoughts?
Well, my thoughts is a little different. I've seen and experienced Africans putting down African Americans and putting me down as a Nigerian American. I'm talking about Nigerians. They You know, you're not really a Nigerian because you don't speak Yoruba. You're not a Nigerian because you don't understand the food. You're not a Nigerian because you don't belong to this church, or you don't understand this, and blah, 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 blah. And I have to remind them that, number one, you can't, first of all, you can't put me down because I'm an asset to you. And the asset is I'm a US citizen and you're not. So that means you need me. Number one. Number two, you have to understand that we come from the same culture. Just because I was raised in America and you was raised in Nigeria doesn't mean that we're different. So you have that kind of mentality going on about Africans trying to put down African Americans. And that is happening today. I had an argument with one of my mentees saying that African Americans didn't contribute to helping Africans come to the U.S. That's not true. If you look at the Immigration Act of the Civil Rights Act of 1965, it helped open the door for African immigrants to come to the U.S. to go to school and to raise their families. So there's a lot of history. There's a lot of history and a lot of stereotypes we have to break down as a community from a cultural, historical, and a relationship standpoint. People can get upset all they want. I am a president of a business association where people from across the continent has confronted me. Some people have even gone and saying, you know what? How can I take you seriously about relationships when you're not married yourself? I mean, these are Africans talking to me as a Nigerian American. So I'm saying all that to say we gotta hit the reset button and have communications and conversations about the real deal. But again, it goes back to understanding that we are one diaspora. We have different cultures. We come from different nationalities. We're one diaspora. And guess what? As long as we stay divided, the enemy will continue to keep us divided and exploit us with our ignorance. They will exploit us on religion. They'll continue to exploit us because we keep fighting each other, not understanding that we are strong, united. I'll leave it at that.
You know, here's what I'm getting from you. I feel like to you, you're just calling a spade a spade. If you're like, I'm against African Americans, I'm against them. If I'm against Africans here, I'm against them. Kese, what's your response? I feel like you have a response to Akindele.
We don't need Americans. First of all, I don't know where he got that from, but we don't, and I think we had established last week that Africa in itself has been sufficient. It was only when European invaders came to our country as friends, bringing investments, that we started lacking whatever it is that we lack. But we are very, very sufficient, and we don't need you because you have a US passport. And it comes back to what I said last week with my partner, who was baffled at the fact that if we took our relationship to the next level, I wouldn't want to go stay in the United States. There was a time where I thought America could do something for me, but we're looking at the political climate in South Africa, and no wise Black person really wants to move to America. So there's nothing really that I think that we need. And that's on the same tone that you're speaking about. It actually kind of also rubs me the wrong way. And to say this is to say, I was on a flight to Bangkok. We landed, there's a whole lot of African women and an American woman at the airport, and you know how airport staff is generally in Bangkok. Bangkok is notorious for treating people of color particularly in a particular way. Alexis, I'm sure, has experienced it. This Black woman was baffled that of the 5 Black women that were set aside, how dare they set her aside because she's American? And I was like, newsflash. We are all the same. So that kind of mentality that you carry, that Africans need you because you're Americans. A lot of Americans, and I've had the pleasure to meet pleasant Americans like Miss Alexis over here, who doesn't carry the same mentality. But that kind of mentality that you carry that we somehow need something for you. I think that not from you, the narrative is false. It's really false, and like it's unsettling to hear. I'm sorry.
I
gotta respond to that. I gotta respond to that. I don't think you understand what I'm talking about. When I say we need, when Africans need African Americans, I'm talking about connectivity. Okay, I'm not talking about it. I'm not talking about it from an egotistical or dominant perspective. That's not what I'm saying. Just like I need brothers and sisters on the continent to help me. I'm linking the wealth there. That's all I'm saying. I'm not making it a division point or anything like that. I want to set the record. Anybody that knows me know that I don't roll like that. Okay. Mm-hmm. What I'm saying is, in the end, we're going to need each other. Whether I'm here in the United States, whether you're in South Africa, whether someone's in Zimbabwe, whether somebody's in Houston, we're going to end up needing each other and pulling each other's strengths, because there is a common enemy which people are not paying attention to that is trying to destroy us all. We're having this conversation about African Americans and Africans, would African Americans marry Africans, and why Africans marry African Americans, because we have to start breaking down the stereotypes and start breaking down these barriers, these artificial barriers that's been erected for so many years, and helping us understand each other more. That's all I'm saying.
Mm-hmm. All this stuff about something. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
All this stuff. Hold 1 second, Brittany. All this stuff about we don't need this, we don't need that, and all this separation. That's how the enemy wins. All I'm saying is we are one diaspora that's made up of very different cultures and nations. There is some connectivity that we could establish with proper communication and proper respect. That's all I'm saying. Go ahead, Brittany.
Brittany, you can go ahead.
Yeah, so I want to add to what Akindele just said. He's thinking about this from like more of an economic point of view, and I totally understand it. We do need each other in that aspect. We really, really do. And then I also want to go back to the cultures and us not having a culture. People don't realize how much African Americans have pieces of African culture a part of our culture because of our history. I'm from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. I don't know if any of you have ever been to New Orleans. Mardi Gras. Mardi Gras is a celebration of traditional African religion.
Okay.
Ifa, the Yoruba religion. My father told me this. They still celebrate that to this day. The slaves brought that here. So parts of our culture are a part of our history from Africa. So I feel like it's also it's ignorance to say we don't take the time to learn African culture, where you don't take the time to learn our culture, because if you did, that you would know that part of our culture came from Africa, and we still followed some of those things today. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So that's all I wanted to add.
That's right. You can respond. That's fine.
Okay. I actually have to bring back everybody to that culture thing, and when I spoke about it. And when I spoke about it, I was talking about it particularly with our traditional practices. Like polygamy, where I'm from, is a form of a traditional practice that I know that you guys don't practice. You don't practice like a lot of rituals that we do. And I was talking about the traditional aspect of everything, which I know that a lot of my African American friends don't get, even when I talk why do you guys still do this? This is still outdated. And I was coming from that perspective where I have a lot of people who do not identify, who cannot relate to a lot of the traditions that we practice and their solution. And every time when we are having discussion about these things from African Americans, all of them is always, it's backwards. You need to do away with. I'm aware of all those festivals like Mardi Gras, and I'm aware of that because we've got a huge Zulu presence in America, and I see every time when they celebrate different cultures like from Africa and stuff, and I've seen also an uproar from African communities where they feel like misrepresented and like things were not displayed in the correct way. So I am aware of that, but I was talking about that when I'm aware of American culture and what it has and what it has to offer. But I'm saying let's take a look into our personal traditions as Africans. I was saying it was not anyone's right, to come in and tell us which parts of our cultures are outdated. I think we are capable of doing that on our own.
All right, so let me read some comments, and then I want to come back to you panelists, maybe hear from Victor and LeVincent. I haven't heard from you guys. So Olisa said, we're talking about what divides Africans around the world. My say on the main issue is Africans and African Americans are simply Africans from different ethnicity. We need to acknowledge others. Okay, so this is Victor's girlfriend or past girlfriend, Victor. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Is this your past or you just your friend? I don't even know. I'm sorry. I just put you off the spot. There is something in the air today, you guys, because this panel, y'all doing something to me. I don't know what it is. I'm losing all forms of professionalism today. I don't even know what's happening, right? But Laneka said, everyone believe and know Americans are exceptional. It is not us. It's you who sees us before we see ourselves. Olisa responded and said, if there's any group of people who feel superior, I think my dear Nigerians feel superior. We need to repent. LOL. Okay. And Olisa is Nigerian, just so you guys know, he's Nigerian. So like I said, Kesset, so what do you feel we're supposed to do? Because we need to become who we are, right? Africans are unique in their own way as well. It shows it every day. The ones I'm around. Does that make sense to you, Kesset, what Laneka said? I hope so. Yolanda said, let's be real. We don't care about immunization, nor who comes into the country. She's referring to white people. This is in response to you, Kesset, when you talked about African Americans not happy when Africans come here and thinking that we're taking something away. So Yolanda said, let's be real. We don't care about immigration. I think that's what she's trying to say, immigration, nor who comes into this country. She's referring to white people. So this is a comment from my sister to you, Akindele. She said, yes, tell me. That's what she's trying to say, immigration, not who comes into this country. She's referring to white. Can everybody be on mute? Okay. So Linda said, and this was to Kesa. Kesa, yes, tell him, Akindele, you need to go home and live a little, but then you would not think we need your passport. Can I just say this about Akindele? Let me just say this. Akindele is the president of the Global African Business Association, the president of the Global African Business Association, okay? So I'm not agreeing with anyone. I'm trying not to be biased here. I'm really trying just to be like open and just, but I think I agree so much with what Brittany said. Akindele is coming from a place of economic empowerment, right? How can we connect economically and share resources? But Kese, interestingly, I understand what you're saying too, because the continent has been robbed so much. It's like, no, we don't really need you guys. We can sustain ourselves. We have intellectual capital. We have talent. We can do things for ourselves. But you know what? I do agree again with us coming together, working together, bridging the gap, and using both resources. So Victor and LeVincent, I haven't heard from you both. What are you thinking about all of this? It got really heated, but what are you thinking about all of this?
Yeah, for me, I'm thinking about way forward and how to just create the bridge between Africans and Americans. I think one of the things many African Americans lack is identity. Many of them don't want to identify really with Africans, but these days we have ancestry.com where you can actually go and check your DNA, check where you actually come from, if you don't know, and try to associate more with people from the area. Try to go back to Africa. Try to learn more about. I mean, we both need to learn about each other. So it's two ways. But I think it's much more easier because many Africans are always open to learn new cultures. We're always open to learn new cultures. So I think Americans can actually go to all parts of Africa and learn their ways of life, learn the reasons why they do what they do, learn if they can adapt to it or if they cannot. It's always a way forward now to see how we can bridge the two gaps.
Victor. Very well said. LeVincent, I want to hear from you. We haven't heard. What do you think about all of this? So much has been said. Culture, polygamy, moving forward, unification. What are your thoughts? LeVincent, are you there? I think he's frozen. No, you're there. Okay, but you're mute. Oh, you're muted. Let me unmute you. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry. I think my mic is a little delayed here, but can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah. Okay, but you're muted. Let me unmute you. I think you're working
Can you hear me?
somewhere else. Can you mute that? I think you're working on your phone or somewhere else.
Okay. So yeah. So. Okay, so yeah, with regards to, I mean, very interesting conversation. You know, one of the things that I found most interesting about my experience, I remember meeting a gentleman at the Marriott years back. He was an African gentleman. And I said, man, you know, we need to get together, and me and my brothers in Africa, and we all need to connect. And he was talking about building a hotel. But the interesting part about it was it seemed to some degree he had no interest in us connecting and doing things in terms of building up businesses for Africans, meeting Africans. He was more interested in building a hotel for Europeans. And it was funny because my heart almost hit the floor because I felt almost as if there wasn't a connection being made. I feel like the new entrepreneurial frontier for Africans is in Africa. You know, the new wealth for Africans, even African Americans, is in Africa. And what we're missing in this whole equation is if the Africans here can start to connect with the Africans, our brothers back home. And one of the unique things that I was watching a little information on the other day where they were talking about how China likes to come into Africa, but they do no cultural exchange in the sense of they're giving us the knowledge that we need to grow. But they say that Americans actually do that. So you have Carl Iger and some of these icons that are actually moving into African markets. Why? Because they want to compete with the Chinese dollar. Now, what that's done for us is left us an opportunity because there are a lot of whites that don't even want to step into Africa, but their money is coming. And if we don't make a move fast, we will have lost out on the greatest opportunity as a people that we could have possibly have taken advantage of within this next century. It is imperative, and I've been talking about this to a lot of Africans, that we get together, this side of the equation, the other side of the equation, and do the cultural exchanges that are needed. You know, this whole conversation is about how arrogant the African is and how arrogant the American is. But guess what, guys? You're both right and you're both wrong, right? Because the reality is, there is cultural exchanges that Africans need, Americans need, to learn more about ourselves on the African side of the equation. And there are also cultural exchanges economically, otherwise, that Africans can take from Americans to help build a greater Africa. If you look at what Akon is doing, he went from a street rapper to building a city of the future. But if you look behind those documents, how many Africans have invested in that city? We need to come together, create a diaspora fund. I've been talking about this forever. And we need to start having the cultural exchanges. I saw another brother that's building a tech center in Ghana, right? I have people I know in the tech industry. I have a friend that just built a sister that, with single mother, 3 kids, bought $1 million house. She killing it in tech. We can have that knowledge over there. And we just have to make the commitment to know that we're stronger together than we are apart. And by doing those cultural exchanges, I can tell you we can grow beyond measures that we could ever imagine.
Okay, no, well said. Kese, you have a comment? You want to respond to that?
To know that we're stronger together than we are apart. And by
the investment topic for me, I don't know, as an African, I don't want to be negative, Nancy, but I'm really always taking a back step with it. Many people have come to Africa with that notion of different colors, different continents. So Africa has been looted. So I don't want to, I guess, participate in that conversation per se, because my perspective about it is we have been looted, and a lot of people come with a perception that they're coming to help us, but they gain their wealth and they leave. And I'm not saying African Americans will come to Africa and invest and leave, but that has been the growing, that's been the trend. And so I'm very about investments from anybody.
You know, and you mentioned that last week.
And just to add on it, I just feel like even though it is welcome, I feel like before even going through that route, I just feel like a lot of people think a way in which they could get closer to us and our culture is in investing in us that way. And I just don't think that is the first step. The first step is going to Africa and having the African experience. The first thing that we need on hand is not investment, but to learn before we get there, because we don't want to get a situation again of people who really don't know us and get us to come and spend their money on us. We need you guys as African Americans, when you come, to be open and like willing to have the African investment, just not to, the experience, not just to come to Africa. And it happens a lot where it's rare people like Aiken who come and stay and do that. But we have a lot of people who come of different races, who put stuff in Africa, take the wealth and go and leave Africa stranded. It leaves us poor, and then we need international aid, and oh my God, Africa is in crisis. So the investment issue for me is just sensitive.
Yeah,
it's very sensitive. I can understand that. Yeah. Okay, Victor. Yes.
Yeah. In addition to what Casey has said, I think it is well understood that most people that are willing to marry or to date each other, from African American and Africans that are willing to do that, most of them must be willing to stay in Africa. They are willing to invest all their time and resources in Africa and to grow both Africa economy and to give opportunities to people to be rich and wealthy too. I'm also on the side, if you're all about investing in Africa, then taking the profits to enjoy yourself abroad, then it's pointless. So I'm also with Kelsey on that too. Thank you.
Okay. No, thank you for saying that. So I'm going to read some comments as we slowly wrap up, because this is 1 hour, 16 minutes, and you guys are loving this conversation. I'm so happy. I have people texting me saying, Nia, it's getting heated. So people are laughing. Literally, my phone was buzzing. People are loving this conversation. Please, I'm asking y'all to please share this, okay? It's on Facebook. Share it across your platforms. Take the link on YouTube, share, so that we can have more people chiming in and perhaps have a part 3. You just never know. But I do want to say this before I read some comments. If you guys come to me again and say, Nia, I wanted the panel to talk about relationship, I will literally scream, because we have agreed now. We have all agreed that there is no how you can talk about relationship without talking about other aspects and other things that affect our communities, okay? So don't come on me saying, we need to talk about dating. No, that's it. That's it, okay? This is how it's going to go regardless. So let me read some comments. And by the way, Akindele has a lot of warriors and gladiators in the comments. Like, yes, that's Akindele. Tell him who you tell them who you are, Akindele. So, people are here for Akindele. Akindele is the truth. Y'all just misunderstanding. So people are here for your Akindele. So Lisa said, Akindele, see, one small reason why I think we both need each other. You know, Nigeria, for example, is at a delicate spot right now. If we dare get help from outside, e.g. Black worldwide, it's going to be victory. Charity said, please, just a little note that we shouldn't forget individualism and personality in this conversation, or argument of African Americans superior to Africans when it comes to marriage or dating. So don't forget individualism and personality in terms of this topic. That's a good add-on. Shegun Adeyina said, that is a popular stereotype. We need to educate ourselves on cultures and empower ourselves economically. So Sayafa said, right, Africa is better for business. So Yolanda is responding and she said, so true. And in my business, we bumped heads, argue, but we come together because our business is more important. We love our differences. And this is in terms of African Americans, Africans doing business together. Let's see what other comments we have there. So Laneka said, everyone won't come together, but deal with who will deal with you. Stay in your lane, because some people have no clue about business or investment. Linda Rose, my sister, said, it's getting hot here. I'm African, and I agree with you, sister. you need to understand everyone has a pride to its culture. And this is actually very, very true. So the last comment we have is from Sarafa again. You don't have to marry or date to build connection or relationship. Wow, that is actually very true and very deep. Thanks for saying that. So any other comments, panelists? Any other add-ons before we slowly wrap up? Alexis, yes?
Just in terms of business and us coming together. So sometimes it seems like when it comes to Africans even mentioning going over to Africa or investing, it's like everybody can come over here. Everyone has come over here already and taken so much from Africa and not given anything back. But you have African Americans who really, really want to go and invest in the continent and do great things because they realize how powerful we can be when we are together. I had a conversation with a friend, he's Ghanaian and Sierra Leonean, and we were talking about how we were so proud of Wakanda. And he's like, you know, Africans make fun of you guys when you say Wakanda forever. He said, but little do they know Africa really could be as beautiful, as plentiful as Wakanda if we work together. And in my head, I just saw like, yo, this really could be it. We could, all of us, African Americans, the Caribbeans, the Africans, we could have so much, but we just cannot get past this, whatever it is that does not allow us to work together. And just as an African American, I have to get this point across. This is just for me. I ain't never had no beef with Africans. I had never had a reason to. I have always been very proud to be an American. Yes, when I was younger, I got the same commercials or information as anybody else in this world, including white people. So we were all confused. We didn't know what to expect, but I am grown. I have taken it upon myself to make relationships with Africans. I told Nia about the stories I always hear from Africans. Guys, I'm be honest, I have had some really bad experiences with Africans as a solo traveler going to different countries. You don't see a lot of African Americans. It is Africans, and they have not always been warm to me. But I refuse to let that make me not speak to Africans, make me not know how powerful we could be if we work together. But we have got to let whatever it is go. We really have to, because if we have not learned yet, divide and conquer has ruined the Black community everywhere. They know us. They know that's the strategy. Make them feel better than them. They're going to keep arguing. We are not going to get anywhere if we don't realize like we have strength when we are together. And that's just all we really need to understand that concept, because we're just not getting anywhere
Alexis,
being divided like this.
Very well said. Very well said. Before you guys give your final words, I want to ask this question. So what advice would you give to a person, maybe an African who wants to marry or date an African American, or an African American who wants to date or marry an African? So let's go back to the whole dating topic, right? Let's round up with that. What advice would you give them? Would you advise them to do it? And any other, like, you know, details? Anyone can take it. Anyone can start.
I would advise them to do it, but I would advise them to do it only if they want to learn more about the African side of their history, and they really want to learn more about that culture. You know, even though I grew up around Nigerians, there's still a lot of things about Nigerian culture I didn't know because I didn't grow up in Nigeria. So if I'm going to date somebody who's a Nigerian, I'm going to learn about their culture and their history. I have an interest in it. You have to have an interest in their culture and in their history on both sides. It can't be one-sided. You learn about my culture and I ignore yours. You have to learn about each other's culture going into it and be interested in it and show that interest.
Who else? Any other comments to that? Responses? Advice?
I can jump in there. I would highly recommend and encourage Africans from the continent dating, even marrying African Americans and vice versa, to create the cultural connection, to create a relationship bond. As long as the key thing is, as long as those people understand the vision in their relationship, they understand the communication aspect, which is very critical in the relationship. As long as they understand what's ahead for them, and and most importantly, this is what really destroys these types of relationships, is external factors. External factors. You can't go to your girlfriend who hates your African man for advice. She ain't married. She ain't got no kids. She don't know what the hell going on. But you're going to her for some advice. That's not happening. You can't go to your sister or your brother from Ghana or Nigeria or Sierra Leone for advice about African American. It's not happening. So external factors put you. It's for real. It happened. I saw it. Listen, I saw it with my mother and my father, because my grandmother didn't like my daddy. So she would create this atmosphere of discontent, and I saw that growing up. So it's very important in the 21st century to communicate with one another, to build with one another, and to move the process forward. Now, me personally, dating an African woman, no problem. African American woman, Jesus Christ got to be present. Bible got to be present. Holy oil got to be present. And incense got to be present to burn, because that's a hard sell for me personally.
Oh my gosh, Akindele, you're cracking me up. To be honest, I thought you were going to be more like out there with it. Thank you for being a little reserved. I appreciate it, but you're cracking me up. Any other comments? Would you advise anyone to date the other community? Victor?
Well, yeah,
It, so.
I mean, that's just it. Just learn more about each other, and something that is much more important than anything, culture, whatever, is love. Just marry somebody or date somebody that understand your mental state of mind, your emotional state of mind, and every other thing. And I think that's the most important thing. Just love each other.
No, well said. So I'm going to read some comment in response to what Akindele said. Okay, people are out here cracking up. Okay, people are like, "Stop, Akindele! That is too funny. He's going to get incense and all that stuff." Atima said, "Hey, Akindele," with a frowning face. Darwin said, "Stop asking the church, Akindele. LOL." Loreka said, "Don't come for us, bro. Give you grace and mercy today." You guys are funny. So I do want to read a text I got from a friend of mine. She's actually logged on here, but for the sake of protecting her identity, I'm not going to say who it is. So she's an African American woman, and she is presently dating a Nigerian man. And she said, "I told him if we ever date and had kids, it's mandatory that his Igbo culture is instilled in them." Right. So this is a Nigerian man who's from the Igbo tribe she's dating. "We would definitely have to frequent Nigeria. The kids must learn the language." This would be such a joy, right? So she's so excited. She said, "I've grown up with just American culture. Our kids will grow up with both, just more focus on their Nigerian culture," right? So if this came to pass, yes, I would definitely marry him. So beautiful. Very well said. LaVincent, any final advice? Would you advise African Americans to marry, date Africans? What would you say to that? I think we lost LaVincent. Oh, we haven't. Okay, so it's always on mute. I have to remember.
Just in totality about what we're talking about. I had a. Can you hear me, guys? Can you hear me? You hear me? Okay. So once again, I had a friend by the name of actually I can't tell you his name. But he was in the United States Army, and he was a very high-ranking official. And he said in 1978 he walked into the Pentagon, deep into the Pentagon, and he had access to classified information. And you know what the information that he read in that documents? He said this was during the Jimmy Carter administration. He said, "I read a document inside of the Pentagon, top secret, and it was a UN document." And he said that document said that the African here in the United States are not to connect with each other for economic growth and social purposes. The African in America and in Africa are not to connect with each other for growth, mental, and social purposes. So it's very much like the young lady was saying up top, where she was saying that, you know, they know us. And I tell people, if you think that white folks landed on the continent of Africa, went into the jungle, pulled out a bunch of black folk, and then landed here in America, well, I can tell you, I read documents that there were merchant ships that they were sending over to Africa, and they were loaded back with blacks, but the ships was going over there with rum. And a lot of us, because of the tribal infighting that you see today, right? Hello? That's how a lot of us landed over here. A lot of us, we shipped each other over here. And then when those tribal leaders were saying that their own cousins, their own nieces, their own nephews were being taken as slaves, right? Oh, now slavery is becoming unfair. So what I'm telling you guys is that, listen, I've worked for Marriott for a lot of my life. And the final lesson I want to say here is one of the things that God has allowed me to see. And I felt like, you know, it's been plenty of times God could have took me off this earth for many reasons, but I believe he wants me to share something with my people. And what I've been able to see is that, guys, it ain't that we don't have the brain power. We're probably, I told you about some of my friends that are Africans that are very high performing. Look up Lola Ogunegi, find out what she became. But all I'm saying is basically what's been happening is we're not organized. I call it the organization of organizations. And the more organized they are, the more they're going to be able to pit against us. But the more organized we become, the more we're going to be able to grow to all levels of African growth, whether it be relationships. But we do need to have those cultural exchanges, and we do need to become more organized so that we can go in and attack the problems and issues as a people, because we are the solution. We are what I call the sleeping lion. We just sleep. We just need to wake up.
Okay, Lavisa, with the word and the wisdom and the knowledge. I mean, that was so deep. I had no idea you were this deep, and you out here in my comment section every time, commenting my pictures. What's going on? I'm kidding. But you know what? I want to hear final words from anyone, really. I know you guys have given you advice. I didn't come to you, Kese, because I feel like I already know what you're going to say, girl. So final words. Maybe you can start, Kese, final words. And then let us know how we can reach you guys, right? Maybe your Instagram account and whatever. And then let me close out for today. So, Kese, you want to start?
Firstly, Nia, let me thank you for this platform. I think it's amazing that we have a platform like this so that us as a community can meet and discuss these kind of issues. You know, despite our common ancestry as a community, we've been separated by a lot of negative myths and stereotypes about each other that, like I said last week, we need to unlearn. You know, when I spoke to you and you told me that when you asked me to come back to the panel, I took it on myself to research and see why is it that this divide exists. And it also made me realize that even in our universities as such, we don't have a lot of people studying the adjustment of the African person to America, you know, just their adjustment and how they relate to America and how they get into the culture and get used to the culture. So I just feel like there could be no unity without education. So when we are talking about being united and everything, kumbaya, we just really need to prioritize learning about each other. And I cannot stress how important it is, because it's hard to accept help from a person who doesn't understand you and where you're coming from. So I believe that's what we should do.
So where can we find you for people who want to find you? Is it Instagram, Facebook?
My Instagram is Rebony, SAREEBONNY. SA, South Africa. And on Facebook, I'm Keseledile Sehopolo. It's very easy to pronounce.
It's very easy to pronounce. Awesome, awesome. So Brittany, final words. We can just make it very quick. You guys, final words and where we can find you so we can close out.
We need to start focusing more on the positive part of us coming together. Stop focusing on the negativity. Take time to really learn each other's culture. Respect the differences. Just because you do it one way doesn't mean it's better. We're different. People are different all over the world. So we don't need to try to force our cultural beliefs on each other. Just take some time to understand and respect each other's culture.
Awesome. Where can we find you, Brittany?
You can follow me on Instagram at Brittany Abiolu, my first and last name.
Awesome. Thank you, Brittany. And then Alexis, final words. Where can we find you?
You can find me at she.just.left on Instagram. And my final words is God made us in his image, but he also made us exactly who we are, as different as we are, and we need to love each other for exactly who we are and our differences. Also, no one that looks like me will ever be my enemy, ever. And we need to learn that we're not each other's enemies. We really, really need to get on this train and figure it out and work together.
Very well said. Lavisa, I'm going to take what you said. Lavisa, I'm going to take what you said as your final words because it was very deep, very positive. But where can we find you for people who want to follow you and continue this conversation with you?
Yes. Adeyemo Victor. That's just
okay. Victor, you can give your final words though. I was talking to Lavisa, but you can give your final words. Yeah, give your final words since we're where to find you.
I mean, very simple and quick. We, the Black race, we are just Black people. They only have the division for us by saying Africans and African American. We are all Black people. If we all stay in line, nobody would be able to identify us clearly. So we should just stay as one race, which is just the Black race, and that's just the advice.
Awesome, well said, Victor. LaVincent, so where can we find you, LaVincent? Where can we find you for people who want to connect with you? You're mute again, LaVincent.
That's just advice.
Okay.
Well said, Victor. LaVincent, so where can we find you, LaVincent?
Yes, I can be found. At LaVincent Scott at Facebook, or also. Can you hear me? Okay, and also at Instagram at 5-star review at Instagram.
Okay. Akindele, final words and how can we connect to you and what you do?
Final word is go global. Period. Love one another. Respect one another. Pray with one another. Build with one another. And explore with one another. Whether you're African or African American, we are all one and we're all in this together. You can find me at Akindele Akinyemi on Facebook. I have some of the wildest conversations on Facebook. You may catch me on a video. You may catch me on a video uncut discussing the issues of the day. On Instagram, you can find me at MadWriter9, like the number 9, and Gaba Network, GABANETWORK. I'm here to let people know that I love Black women. And when white women ask me, you never post any pictures of white women on your page, why? I let them know that I love Black women. You go on your own page and post your own white women. Get the hell off my page. Thank you.
You see why I love this man? You see why I love Akindele. He does not hold back. But you know what? For those watching, please don't leave. I want to make a special plea to everyone watching right now to the panel. I work with the organization, it's the Bobsled Federation for Nigeria. This is the first ever Nigerian bobsled team. And right now they're hosting a campaign, the $1 campaign to help qualify for the Olympics in 2022, Beijing Olympics. So I want to play this video of what they do, who they are. Let's support our people. It's a $1 campaign. All they're asking for, just donate $1. That's it, just $1. They're trying to raise $100,000. I'm going to play this video and then we can just wrap up afterwards. I'll close out afterwards, okay? So let's watch this video. So don't go, those watching, please don't go. Stay. right, so that video was from the training camp where they were training. So please, you guys support. I'll put the link, the PayPal link to donate right here in the comment section. Also the description for this video. Please support. Let's support our people. We need you. The bobsled team needs you. But just final words. Thank you guys so much for joining. I appreciate it. Special thanks to our sponsor. You guys saw Farm Life. Farm Life is a Black-owned, Nigerian-owned telehealth company that helps older citizens with adverse drug reaction. By investing, you become a stockholder within the company. You can build wealth for yourself. I'm also going to drop the link. Please invest. Let's help our businesses. Let's help our communities. Okay. Thank you all so much for watching. Let's see. Are there any comments? Let's see. Any comments that I can read right now? Okay, people are just excited. So thank you all for watching. Thank you for supporting Nia Black Studios. I love you guys so much. Please send me a message if you want to hear any topic. Like, what topic do you want me to discuss? I cannot think alone. I need your help. Let me know. For sponsorship, email niablackstudios@gmail.com. Thanks, guys. Have a good rest of the day. Bye.